Karl, and we all know the power of the M1 chip with the new Mac lineup. So we have the iMac behind me in the older MacBook Pro, in the MacBook Air. The number one question I get, is it possible to game on Macs in 2021 going into next year? Can you have a decent gaming experience on Mac OS? And I will preface this video by saying if you want the best experience, stick to PC. Kind of end a video if you want to leave it at that. But a lot of us still own Macs and they're useful in their own way, and this isn't a comparison of Mac versus PC. It's, can you game on Mac OS? We're not gonna partition the hard drive, install Windows on it. What can you do with this out of the box in terms of gaming? So behind me, we've got the 24-inch M1 iMac, but this applies to any Mac with the M1 architecture. I'm sure it will apply to the new M1X chip. It'll probably be better, as a matter of fact. And I actually posed this question to you guys on Instagram. Super interesting. The camp was pretty split at 50-50, and that almost answers this question kind of. You can kind of game on Mac, but you can also kind of not. So I'll start off by saying if you want to play the most graphic intensive and AAA titles usually reserved for PC or console, for example, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Call of Duty, Warzone, not that that's a AAA title, but one of the more popular ones, you are very limited to game choice on Mac OS. I'm a big Xbox and Halo guy, so the up-and-coming Halo Infinite game, can't play on this. The game that I've been crushing the most recently, the remastered Mass Effect trilogy, can't play on this. So you are a bit limited with your game choice, but a popular game that I actually used to play a lot more, I still think a lot of people play, Fortnite through Epic Games, and it's actually a game that you can play really well. So even on the high settings, I was still able to maintain 60 frames even through all of the hecticness. I'm not the greatest player at Fortnite, but my buddy actually ran a couple rounds on this exact setup, and I'll leave you some gameplay footage to kind of show you what that looks like. Blizzard, another huge game developer, and I'm a big softie for Starcraft II, so able to run this easily 60 frames. I know it's not the most graphic intensive game, but it's a game that I personally love to play, and I can play it on my Mac. And in the end, I'd probably say finding a game that runs on Mac OS is your most challenging part of the ordeal, because once you do, most games are pretty well optimized, honestly. The M1 chip has made such big leaps and bounds in terms of graphics. Apple is spending so much money, billions of dollars with game developers to ensure any game that works on their operating system actually performs half decent. And if you look at Apple Arcade, I know it's not for you hardcore gamers, but in my older age, I don't have time to rock 6-7 hours of video games. I'm not running competitive Apex, competitive Call of Duty anymore. Playing the occasional casual game is sadly kind of my life now, and I was super skeptical in the beginning about Apple Arcade. I didn't really give it a chance. I didn't really see the value of it. It's around $5 to $6 a month, but as I've kind of grown with it a bit more, there are some hidden gems in their game selection. Asphalt 8 Oceanhorn 2 is actually a half-decent game. I mean, obviously it's not the most graphic intensive, it's not gonna push the boundaries, it's not really next-gen worthy, but I think for the casual gamer, it's more than enough. And when you finally do find that hidden gem or a game that kind of works for you, that's where the Mac space really falls short, and you have to upgrade actually quite a bit around it to make it a half-decent gaming experience. So we actually partnered up with Elgato for this. You can see this is a pretty decent looking streaming/gaming setup here, and it's running not through Windows, through the Mac. And before we get into all those details, maybe the most important thing is to actually upgrade your peripherals first. Whoever gives the go-ahead or whoever's in charge of the Magic Mouse, I don't know how this still passes quality control. It is the most unergonomic mouse I've ever used for close to a decade now. How long has this thing been out? It looks stylish, kind of online with the rest of Apple branding. It's very minimal. It has the orange to match the iMac, but other than that, it is the worst gaming mouse. So I'm just rocking a little Logitech combo. This is the Pro X Superlight, my kind of go-to gaming mouse these days. Once you've kind of got used to using it, it kind of follows the name. It is so light and it's tough to go back to anything else. Keyboard-wise, I am using the G915 TKL. It's a full mechanical keyboard, kind of matches the white on white combo because once again, the Apple Magic Keyboard looks good, but if you want to have any sort of a gaming experience, this is also just kind of garbage. So you can throw this and the mouse off to the side. Don't throw it out. The stuff from Elgato really kind of rounds off the entire gamer/streamer theme, and I will let you decide if you are on Twitch or on YouTube. I've actually revitalized my Twitch career, so if you want to follow me. Everyone, though, does need to have an external microphone. Even though the ones from Apple are decent for the built-in ones, having an external mic is just so much better for an audio experience, and you can even use this for podcasting, recording any sort of voiceovers in general. So this is the Wave 3 mic on the Wave mic arm, or the boom arm. I love how clean and minimal it is, and the boom arm extends and articulates into any position that you find comfortable. I typically have mine kind of right underneath my mouth so I can still stare at the screen and still talk clearly into the microphone. The microphone has an internal pop filter, and in my opinion, for the price, it's probably one of the better sound options that you can go for. It's a simple plug and play. We're gonna kind of switch to the back of the iMac in a second to show you kind of the shit show that's going on behind it, but it does plug in via USB, so you will need to live the dongle life. As I said, we'll get to that in a second. Wave mic arm is by far the best boom microphone arm that I've used across any microphone in general. It's super sturdy, and one thing that makes it really unique against its competitors is this little counterweight. So depending how heavy your microphone is, if you've got something smaller like the Wave 3 or even something from Blue microphones, you might need to have this little external counterweight to put on to make sure it's a bit more manageable and stays in one place. If you've got something heavier, I'll leave the specs below. You actually don't need this, and it won't kind of jut up on its own. It's got a little channel for cable management, which is nice, and the best part about a boom arm setup, when you're done with the microphone, you're not gaming anymore. You can kind of articulate it off to the side if you don't need it, and kind of keep your workspace nice and clean when you want to switch back to your Mac for other things other than gaming, because I think that's what these are mostly used for in general. We're also rocking the Stream Deck XL as my newest addition, maybe slightly overkill for a beginner streamer, but once you're getting more into the space, having a little deck like this is so useful. So you can have customizable buttons that you can of course change up to your own needs. So I have some set to social media so I can tweet quicker. I've got some set to audio cues when I get a new Twitch stream follower. The XL is just so useful because you just have so many different icon options that you can configure. So 8x4, that is 32 customizable buttons if my math is correct. Once again, it's a simple plug and play option, and the software is super intuitive. And the last thing that you'll need for your entire gaming setup has to be the camera to record your own facial expression, especially if you are streaming. So I am rocking a ring light, and that's simply its name from Elgato. And I know a lot of people give a lot of flack to ring lights. They're kind of made famous by beauty influencers, by Kim Kardashian, is that a thing? I think she used to use ring lights back in the day, but they are so useful because you can have the camera in the middle, hence that ring light name. You don't need a separate tripod to mount your camera and still have a separate light stand. So it actually makes the setup a lot more minimal, I think. You can see that I'm rocking the Sony a7C, and I think that is overkill for most streamer setups. You can have a simple point and shoot camera, but because it's one of the cheaper full frame cameras that I kind of have it kicking around in the studio. It's something that I've mounted. It has that nice little flip out screen, so I kind of know what I'm recording, and that kind of plugs in to this cam link via a micro HDMI to HDMI cable. And the nice thing about Sony cameras, once they are plugged in, your computer recognizes them as an external webcam. Sony's Imaging Edge software is once again pretty intuitive, and it works on Mac and Windows as well. Yeah, that's kind of all the accessories that you need. And before we finish off, I'm gonna show you the Frankenstein of the back of the iMac. Because you are limited to the 4 USB-C ports, most of these run off of standard still USB-A. You do need to live the dongle life, sadly. In a perfect world, I'd probably have a USB-C to 10 USB-A dongles, but that's the area for improvement. You can kind of make it work. I'll leave my exact dongle linked below. That sounds kind of weird, but this is my Mac gaming setup. And yes, you can game on Macs. You just have to compromise a bit. The silver lining, a couple years ago, I would say gaming on a Mac wasn't even a question, but as Mac OS has become a bit more robust, as Apple is spending more and more money working with game developers to make the experience better, because I get it, I may edit on Final Cut, I may use my Mac solely as a social media machine device. It's what it really excels at. Students will have MacBook Airs, MacBook Pros at school for all of their note-taking, for all of their schoolwork. You still want to have the option to game. You don't want to be pigeonholed into just getting getting a PC just because it can game better. With that said though, the gaming experience on a PC is the absolute best. The one thing that I have to give Apple a lot of flack for, I wish you could use this as an external monitor. I wish I could plug in my Xbox via HDMI or even rock my Nintendo Switch. That's something a $100 or $150 monitor can do, and Apple, of course, keeps it tight-knit. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope it answered that question, is it possible to game on a Mac? And if you are currently gaming on your Mac, let me know what game you're playing. Maybe we can run a couple games. Maybe I could stream it over on Twitch. I hope you guys enjoyed this vid. Big thanks again to Elgato. All of the accessories are linked down below in the description, and I'll catch the rest of you in one of my next vids. Peace!